Welcome to the DisOrient live stream Q&A for our opening night program. First, I'd like to acknowledge that the city of Eugene is located on Kalapuya Ilihi, the traditional indigenous homeland of the Kalapuya people. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. Today, descendants are citizens of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians of Oregon. And they continue to make important contributions in their communities and across the land we now refer to as Oregon. We express our respect for all federally recognized tribal nations of Oregon. This includes the Burns Paiute Tribe, the Confederated Tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians, the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde Community of Oregon, the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians of Oregon, the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, the Coquille Indian Tribe, the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians, and the Klamath Tribes. We also express our respect for all other displaced Indigenous peoples who call Oregon home. We also acknowledge the recent shootings in Atlanta, and our hearts go out to friends, families, and loved ones who suffered and continue to suffer from anti-Asian American violence. I invite all of you to join with our DisOrient family in holding this festival space as a safe and nurturing platform for Asian American Pacific Islander voices and stories. And to all people of color, we are going to raise our voices. We're going to tell our stories on behalf of our ancestors and the generations who will carry our stories forward. And we will do this all in solidarity. And with that, I'd like to turn this live stream over to our executive director, Pamela Quan.
Hi, Susan. Thank you so much. And thank you for such a warm welcome to our opening. You have put together a phenomenal program, and I'm really excited to get started and share with everyone the beautiful films at DisOrient 2021. So we'll catch you later.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye. Everyone, I am so glad that we have a way to be together, and I'm very grateful that we can have the discussions that draw people to DisOrient every year. I can't think of a better way to start than with my next guests, and they represent three beautiful films that celebrate the rich stories in Filipino North American communities and Filipino heritage. So let's get started. Please help me welcome the director and producer of the short film, Ode to a Seafaring People, Joella Cabalu. Hello, Joella.
Hi, everyone.
And I also love to welcome Anaka, the director, writer, and producer of Looking Back. Hey, Anna.
Hello. Hi.
Hey, great to have you. And please let's welcome the writer, director, producer, and in her spare time wrote a few lyrics for all the songs for the feature narrative, The Girl Who Left Home. It's my pleasure to welcome Mallorie Ortega. Hey, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Let's welcome the rest of your cast. We've got the beautiful and talented Emmy Coligado.
Hello.
Hello. Great to have you. And let's welcome, we've got a prince in the house, actually, don't we? We have the Prince Paolo Montalban, aka Tito Tony. Hello, thank you for being here. And finally, we have our beautiful lead from The Girl Who Left Home, Hayden Everly. Welcome, Haven. Hey, look at everybody. What a gorgeous group. Thank you for being here. And what I'd like to do is maybe have the three directors. We have three women, Filipina Canadian and Filipina American directors presenting beautiful works. I'd love to have each of you give a short synopsis of your film, because in this virtual world, many of the people have not seen the films, many have. So let's start with Joella. Please tell us a little bit about your film.
Thanks so much for programming all of our films together. It's so exciting. Yeah, to be in this space with fellow Filipino X filmmakers, it's so gratifying, especially since this past week. I've really been yearning to be in community. Ode to a Seafaring People is a 3-minute short. It's a poetic tribute to Filipino seafarers. And it's really short and sweet, but it really opens up thinking about history of Filipino seafarers and its connection to kind of the modern day, and also hopefully shining a light on the literary arts community here in Vancouver on the traditional Coast Salish territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. So always thinking about our connection to the land and the water. Thank you.
Thank you. It's beautiful. And Anaka, please tell us a little bit about Looking Back.
Well, again, thank you so much for having us here and for programming with these wonderful directors. It's super exciting to be part of this festival and this group of wonderful people. Yay, Filipinos.
Yes.
So Looking Back is a dramatic musical short, and it is based on my personal story and my relationship with my mom. And so it looks into the themes of loss, regret, and mental health. And it was my graduation film from Emily Carr University of Art and Design.
Beautiful, beautiful institution, though. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And Mallorie Ortega, we have a lot to talk about with you, Missy. Please tell us
I'm
about
an
your
open
film.
book. I will tell you anything. Well, thank you, of course, to everyone for being here, and to DisOrient for having us being the opening night of your festival. And Anna and Joella, I watched your films, and it's just so awesome to continuously see more stories, and it's a good feeling. And I love that we're all here today. The Girl Who Left Home is literally about a girl who left home. She is at the height of her career, her acting career, and suddenly her father passes away. And so she is faced to decide whether to pursue her own dreams or to preserve her parents' dreams. And so there is this, I want people to walk away, questioning their, like the first generation experience versus the immigrant American experience, and how it's very different, even though we're only, 1 decade away from each other. And I feel like that's important. And I saw that in, Anna's work. So it's something to be said and talked about. And I think that, just opening that door, especially for me and my family, it definitely gave us opportunities to finally talk about things that we've never talked about.
Well, thank you. I'd also love to hear from the cast, just maybe a highlight. We'll start with Emmy, then Paolo, then Haven. Just a highlight from your experience working on The Girl Who Left Home.
Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure. And I feel kind of emotional, seeing all these Filipina filmmakers. It really means a lot. I think the highlight, it was my first job where I played a Filipino character written by a Filipino writer. And I didn't even realize it until I was at work, and that was just, it kind of blindsided me, that I finally was playing a character that was complex, nuanced. It wasn't, 1 or 2 dimensional. And so it was a really amazing surprise to come about that, because I was on set and I was like, wow, I'm so happy. I'm always happy to work. You know, when you're an actor and you get to work on a set, that's just like, that is your vacation when you actually get to work. And so it was just, I realized when I was working, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever played a role that was specifically written for a Filipino woman. So definitely a highlight.
Great. And Paolo?
Unmute myself. Okay. So, yeah, a lot of the stuff that Emmy was talking about, for me personally, it was a great opportunity to pay homage to all the Titos and the Ninongs that I grew up with, the things that made me laugh from them, the things that brought me joy because of them. And I hope that we're able to share that feeling with everyone, even if they're not Filipino, so they can kind of get a lens into what that Filipino culture is like from the inside, from the family side. Just to kind of like elevate what Emmy said, you know, when you're an actor and you're working on a part, many times you have to strip away the different layers in order to get to the character. And this being a story about first generation and zero generation Filipinos, which in a sense I feel like I am because I came over when I was one. So it's kind of between generations. That's one less layer, one big layer that I didn't have to think about because it was already there. It was already a part of my blood memory, if that makes sense.
Oh, well, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Haven, what was a highlight for you working on The Girl Who Left Home? You were the girl who left home.
Yes, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you to all of you for writing incredible stories and for showcasing these stories today. It's such an honor to even be a part of this panel. I think for me, the highlight of this film, just to continue on with what Emmy and Paolo were saying, is that this film is predominantly about a Filipino woman, but it also has very universal concepts. So it really showcases the Filipino story, but I think everyone can take something out of it, whether or not you're Filipino. And it really shows us, though, that we deserve to be seen and heard. And we go into depth with a character who has more than just a surface level issue. It goes way into depth of what is going on in her life, but it's also like everyone can relate to grief and relate to responsibility and to love of family and really big choices in life. So I love that on top of all of that, it really showcases our culture. It also showcases universal concepts, and it also puts music all into one. So I think that this is what this film highlights.
Thank you so much. And right now, what I think we will do is let's talk with Joella and Anna about your films, and then we'll get back to The Girl Who Left Home. Joella, you're an amazing documentarian. We know your work because we've shown the feature length, It Runs in the Family, which was a huge hit. And it talked about your family and your brother. I think you have such conviction as a filmmaker, as a Filipinx filmmaker. You put your identity at the forefront, and you have to respect that. Tell us about why you were drawn to make this film, Ode to a Seafaring People.
Oh, goodness, Pamela, thank you so much for those affirming words. You're so lovely. Thank you.
You're easy to be around. So.
This is why I like tell everyone to submit to DisOrient, to just be showered with love. So to back up, my team at Lantern Films, they are the producers of this short, and it was a commission by our public broadcaster in British Columbia, Knowledge Network, and they were commissioned to make 10 short films, each 3 minutes, that would fit into a 30-minute slot. And Lantern Films had produced untold stories about historical buildings in British Columbia. And one of those stories was about the Mission to Seafarers building in the Port of Vancouver, which is like 15-minute bus ride for me. And I was very surprised about this. I didn't know that there is this prefabricated 1940s house in the middle of the port amongst like shipping vessels and cranes. And what was interesting about this place was they are a charitable organization, a home away from home for visiting seafarers, the majority of whom are Filipino. And what really struck me is the seafarers are so vital to our economy. They bring about 90% of our goods, not only to our province, but this is globally. And yet they are so invisible. Kind of talking about the invisibility earlier, we can see the shipping vessels out on English Bay out in the water, but we don't realize there's people on there with families back home that they're away from for months and months at a time. So that's what I was kind of drawn to, just really challenging something I didn't know about of our own community. And with being approached with this parameter of making a 3-minute short, I thought, instead of doing a typical documentary style of interviews, which we could not do it justice in 3 minutes, I thought one way was to bring in our literary community here and collaborate with a poet to write an original poem that really gets to the heart of that invisibility, of that resilience, the loneliness, all of those complex emotions.
It was so impactful for 2 minutes and 47 seconds. You co-wrote this with Sol Diana?
Well, it was really a collaboration. I really defer to Sol. He was the one who really wrote the piece, and we collaborated in how to kind of construct it into these parameters. But and Sol and I connected after my first film. And I really kind of attribute to my entry into the documentary community and looking at stories of identity as an opportunity for myself to like really reflect on my own identity as well. So that's how it was connected with Sol.
Yeah, I was very moved by the spoken word format of it, and I could watch this over and over and over. It just like brings tears to my eyes. Does anyone else on the panel have family or extended family who are seafarers? Is that something that anyone's familiar with? I'm just kind of curious. No? I know people of Filipino descent who are connected to seafarers, so that's why I asked. And your lead character, Manny, was in the Navy. I mean, that was written in, and I thought that was an interesting coincidence. You mentioned harboring goods that are not for us. So poignant. Can you talk about that a little bit? And some of the statistics you had at the end about seafarers and the Filipino contribution.
Yeah, certainly. Yes, I love that line that Sol wrote, and really thinking of, again, it's just coming back to that invisibility of, and trying to bring it out to like a broader context of like all of the kind of overseas foreign workers. So a lot of them are Filipinos, and thinking about how at least in Canada, and I'm sure it's the same in the US, that this migration policy or culture of like being grateful that you even have work, that you're allowed into this country. But sometimes for a lot of people, you don't get to reap the benefits of that. And so that kind of sentiment was something not very specific to the seafarers, but I felt like it really connected to across the Filipino community and Filipinos in the diaspora, because that's something that as something that Sol wrote on social media recently was that Filipinos are kind of holding the world together through their resilience and kind of in the behind the scenes, especially during this pandemic, of being on the front lines of so many different industries. And yet they remain kind of invisible. And so I think this is one way, the approach of doing this film through poetry, but also inviting the people who are in the audience in the short are people in our community who are in academia, in so many different arts, who are doing amazing things. So I wanted to highlight that as well.
I was going to ask you about the audience members. You could see in their eyes that they felt the message of the piece. So could see that connection. Thank you so much for producing such powerful and beautiful work. You know your worth, and you represent that for Filipino Americans and Filipino Canadians. So thank you.
Thank you, Pamela.
If any of the audience has any questions, if you had a chance to see any Seafaring people or looking back, feel free to chat those questions in, and we'll try to take a couple questions. And let's meet and chat with Anna for a bit about looking back. Hello, Anna.
Hi, Pamela.
Hey, and you were on set and taking a break just to be with us, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
People want to hear from you. So your film, Looking Back, it's ambitious to do a good short, but you made it more complicated for yourself by making it a musical. Can you talk about that choice? And then on top of that, you chose to take the topic of mental health, which we don't always talk about in Asian American communities. So tell us your thoughts about your thoughts and choices.
Yeah, so yes, you're right. It is a lot more complicated to make a musical of short or feature length. I'm sure as Mallorie can talk about a little bit later. But I think that for me, when I was making this film, because it was a tribute to my mom, music was the thing that connected us. So it was the language that we could speak to each other then when we couldn't we couldn't find the words to talk to each other. So it was important to me to make that part of the film. And so when the process that I went through was I wrote the lyrics, and then I collaborated with a friend of mine, Shane Rahman, and he wrote all of the music, the score. And then from there, then I wrote the screenplay, and then, and I had some ideas in my head of like what I wanted the scenes to look like and those kinds of things. But that kind of all came together at the end. But I really wanted to address this issue because, like, just as you already mentioned, Pamela, is that we don't talk a lot about mental health in Asian culture, in Filipino culture. And I think I would have had a better relationship with my mom if we did talk about it more, just because it would have given me a base understanding of, sort of the struggles that she was having and the things she was going through, instead of making it about me, if that makes sense. So so I just thought that was an important thing to talk about. But I also wanted to have a broader appeal. Like, obviously there were things that I put in it that would connect with the Filipino audience specifically, but I wanted it to have a sort of broader appeal to bigger audiences on the themes of, of mental health, of loss, of regret, because I think that's, all of us have those relationships in our lives that we can relate to.
I commend your bold spirit for taking a very challenging subject. You played with time and perception of the mother figure, Gloria. What she thought she saw and what was reality, and you put that to music. Can you talk about how you treated time?
Well, I think in a lot of my work, I don't follow straight lines. So it's, I never think about life in a linear way, because I just think we as humans don't live our lives in a linear way, just because we are affected by the things that have happened in the past and the things that we're trying to reach for in the future. And so I think that's why in all of the work that I've made, it's kind of flowing in and out of all of those periods of time.
Well, great. And I also wanted to make the comment that, there was a lot of pain and a lot of hurt in this relationship between a mother and daughter, but you could feel the love. And I thought, even though they could not communicate in your piece, it was beautiful that they found harmony in music, because the vocals were stunning. And you incorporated a choir and almost had that as extra voices.
Yeah, I actually sing in the choir of like the people that were that were part of the because I was trying to find a way to represent the voices in her head, but not make it I guess stereotypical, kind of thing. And so it was, so that was one way that I did it. And then I was just so fortunate to get the soloists that I did, soloists slash actors slash singers slash amazing humans to perform the pieces for us for the show. And it was kind of a funny thing because this was a student film. I had no idea if I would be able to get, like, I mean, I know there was Filipino actors and stuff like that in Vancouver, but just, people that would want to come try this out with me. And I actually approached an actor that I had found online, and because I just Googled like Filipino actress Vancouver, and Ariel, who plays the mother, her website popped up, and I was like, hey, would you want to have coffee with me? And like, much to my shock, she actually did. So yeah,
Wow.
and then it just grew from there.
Beautiful voices. So
Yes,
you must count yourself lucky that it worked out well. And you received awards at Emily Carr for your work on this piece. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So I think probably as people are processing and hearing the conversation, we may have some questions at the very end. So I'll try to make time for that. Thank you for creating such a beautiful piece.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for having it as part of your festival. It's so great. I think Emmy was saying this earlier, just to see, I never thought in my life that I would ever be on a panel of all Filipino filmmakers. So this is an amazing thing.
I mean, I give Susan credit for that, because she felt like this would be a very strong representation, and we are so proud. And I think all of our audiences are proud to see what you bring. Thank you. Let us move on to The Girl Who Left Home. Wow. Mallorie, I know you had success with your short film, also a musical. So you have a bond with Anna that way, that you said, hey, let's just do a musical out the gate. But to do a feature length for your feature length directorial debut. So what's up?
What's up? So in undergrad I was studying film and theater, and I've just grown up in theater, and finally after grad school I was like, I really wanted to do film. That was like really my dream. But I realized during undergrad I was like doing so much theater production. And so on a whim, I was like, let me just apply to film school and see what happens. And then I got in, and then suddenly I find myself doing a lot of very serious, straight narratives. And then I'm like, I miss theater so much. And so I just kind of knew, I was like, I have to make a musical. And so I made a short film. And then after that, I was, just trying to prepare for the future, who knows? And I wrote a feature film, and I was just like, I really liked making a musical. So I know how to make a short musical. Why not I try to make a feature musical? And that's what happened.
That's what you did. Well, you did such a phenomenal job. I first heard about this film from your producer, Angelo Santos, who I adore and love. And he's Joella's brother from another mother and father, because their paths keep crossing. So funny. But that's how I first heard about it. And I'm like, Asian American musical, yes. So thank you for making this. What I think you did successfully was, not only did you put out a piece that says, do not underestimate us. We are talented. We can write. We can sing, we can dance, we can do it all. But you also put out there that as Asian Americans, we can laugh at ourselves. Like, you invite people in to Filipino American culture, and you say, come be part of our family, see how we live, see how we love. And then, you know, there's a lot of things to laugh at. So is humor just part of is part of your work always?
It definitely is now. I think, you know, again, going back to grad school, it's a hard environment, and it's hard to, you know, stop listening to the wolves. And so my way of coping was like, I'm just gonna have a great time. And I'm just glad that Emmy, Paolo, and Haven were like, yeah, we're gonna have a great time. And they definitely elevated the humor that I wrote in there. I yeah, they just took it to another level that I could not imagine. I remember Paolo being like, I don't even remember. Did you write that line? I'm like, I have no idea. Like you just went with it, and I love it, you know. And same with Emmy and Haven. So comedy and just, I think understanding yourself better as a person and who you are, obviously that helps you feel more secure about yourself when you're making fun of yourself. But honestly, it's like this is just the truth. Like we
Right.
are who we are, and it's okay to
Right.
laugh about it. We just are who we are.
I know. It was very well done.
Yeah.
What I think is amazing is that the cast you have here, and as well as the broader cast, every single one of you are super talented and super funny. You know, it's not like one person carried all the humor for the whole film. You guys are all hysterical. It must have been hard to get any work done on the set.
Well, that was the 80s job to make sure we were doing it on time, you know. No, I think also what happened was just like everyone truly became a family. You know, like most of the crew was living at my parents' house. And then all the
Oh, yeah.
cast, yeah, and then the cast were staying in the same hotel, you know, and we all just like clicked, and it felt fun to like wake up together and like, you know, cook breakfast and okay guys, now we're driving to work, and then like, you know, it truly was like a vacation. We just had a really great time getting to know each other and just working, and then going back to the hotel or to the house and like decompressing, and you know, it felt like that really helped the work environment, and then everything you saw on screen.
Right. Well, the bond here is definitely palpable. We feel that. So well done there. How was it having this at your family's home? I mean, like, how did you have a talk with your parents, a sit down and say, okay, this is work. I will handle it. Do not go in there and start serving people food. And, you know, I mean, like, how did you separate personal from, you know, work? And I'm the director. You know, how did you do all that?
Um, well, luckily, my parents didn't really understand what they were signing up for. So, you know, and also, you know, typical Asian parents, you know, wanted business, medical, na na na. And so, like me really being like, I'm doing film, um, they didn't know what it meant to be a filmmaker, and they're like, oh, cute movie that you made, you know. Um, but once I brought the set to their home, I mean, my dad was overwhelmed. He was like, you're moving my furniture? I'm like, yeah, like it has to be a certain way. He's like, and then he saw all the photos of Haven and Emmy, and then the Russ who plays Manny. He's like, this does not feel like my home anymore. This is so weird. I'm in a stranger's home. And then, you know, when everyone left, literally the day everyone left, he brought out the vacuum. Like I heard he ordered a steam mop. He mops the you know, steam cleaned the carpets and everything. He put everything back. And I think that once they saw what was happening, so the restaurant was actually my parents' restaurant as well. And so once they saw everything that was happening and saw the equipment and saw the people, you know, my dad was like, wow, like no one does anything until you say to do something. I was like, yeah, I'm the director. He's like, I don't know what I thought. It's really incredible. I was like, yeah. And this one time we were filming um this timer, like a little egg timer. And because, you know, we're baking, and we have a close-up shot of this egg timer ticking. So we have the boom guy and our DP, you know, everyone's focused. And like I'm letting it go for a good while. And then I think my dad makes like a sound in the background. He's like,
Oh,
hey. And then I turn around. I don't know who it was. I turn around. I was like, and it's my dad. I was like, oh, I can't get mad at my dad. And then I called cut. Then everyone starts moving around again. And he pulls me aside. He's like, I'm so sorry. I just thought you were doing that for fun. I was like, no, like that was a real shot. He's like, I had no idea.
you guys did have fun. Lots of
We
stories like
did.
that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's nice that you could share your work with your family, that they could observe. That's a rare opportunity, that they could be invited in to your world. Because like what I think was great about this story, as I think Paolo and Emmy mentioned, is that you have the two generations. A lot of people don't understand that there is, you know, maybe the generation that came over, and there's a different reality and history and level of success and struggle. And then the next generation exists on a completely different planet almost. And it's hard that there is this disconnect between the generations, that they don't share that. And I think you brought that up in the storyline, you know, with Haven's character. You were talking about addressing all that beautiful food, how to present our food. And Haven trained with Christine, I should say, not Haven, Christine, your character, has one approach, how to present the food. And then, you know, the family has like, no, that's not the traditional way. You know, we don't shape it this way and do that. So there was really some interesting conversation you brought up with all of that. I think one of the biggest surprises for me in this film was Amy, when she hit the mic in that karaoke scene, because I was so into her character as the mom. She was so good. She was so good. Then she starts singing. By the time we hit the credits, I'm like, did she really sing? Is that really her? And you have that amazing voice. Did you train musically? Where does all that musical talent come from, Emmy?
Oh my gosh, you're very sweet. That's very, very sweet. Well, I started singing in middle school. I just joined choir, and you know what? A lot of the Filipino culture, it's like you don't have an option. You have to play the piano and you have to sing. You know, it's like so. I think I came out of the womb singing, but it's funny because with the karaoke scene that you mentioned, Haven helped me with it because I'm more musical theater like trained, and so it was hard for me to find a little of the pop influence. And I was like, I need to sound like I'm your mom. Could you help me with this song?
Haven, that's awesome.
It was so easy for me to pick up. It just like little things here and there. It was predominantly all her though. She's so versatile with the way that she can use her voice. So thank you for the credit, but it's not true.
And you are funny, so yes, I know. What is there talent? Is everyone musical in your family? I don't know that every family's that musical, but
we were forced to learn to play the piano in my family.
we could. How many people on this panel were forced to learn an instrument? That's a majority there.
Joelle's lucky.
I know.
I did sing in the choir and also was in musicals in high school. So
there you go.
That's my instrument.
There you go. Great. And well, and are there other people in your family who sing as well?
I learned to sing actually because my dad played the piano by ear, and he was asked to play the organ at our church, but he couldn't read the music. Wow. So he would ask me to sing the melody. And that's when my dad was like, she has a good voice. You should let her take voice lessons or join the choir. So that's kind of how it started.
I see. Okay. Well, people have to watch this film if you haven't already, because her voice is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And Mr. Prince Paolo, I call you Prince Paolo because for those who may not know, I think most of everybody knows, but there might be one or two who don't. Paolo played the prince with Brandy in Cinderella, in Disney's production of Cinderella. You can catch it on Disney Plus right now if you want to. Yeah, please do. But you know, Paolo, you played this suave, debonair prince in Cinderella. You had Whoopi Goldberg as your mother. Poor thing, you had to work with Whitney Houston and Brandy and Jason Alexander and Victor Garber, and you know, this beautiful diverse cast on stage. That must have been an incredible experience.
Yeah, it was I hope not a once in a lifetime experience, but certainly an outstanding experience.
Yeah.
Primarily because many of these people who I was working with, they were idols of mine. I grew up admiring their work as comedians, as actors, as musicians, as musical theater performers. Um, and so, yeah, it was a lot of fun, whole lot of fun.
That's great.
I'm
And
bringing it. Sorry?
what I think is funny is if anyone has seen Paolo as the prince, then we jump forward here and he's goofy Tito Tony. And you did an equally excellent job of that character. And you brought the extra cheesy, extra goofy Tito Tony. How did you find all of that to bring into that character? That was such a beautiful character.
Pamela, thank you so much. I really love being here on this panel. Um, that character is me. I'm goofy. I'm
Are
cheesy.
you really? Do you guys agree? Is he that goofy? No, we see you as the prince. You know, this just composed.
No, and I want to give a shout out to Mallorie because it takes a very talented writer, director, producer to have that security in her work and her own selection process to trust her actors to allow themselves to be themselves on camera, and so allowing me to do that for the 17 days that we shot. Mallory, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So great that experience to hear my voice, my own voice, and then have it captured on camera like that. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yes, yes. Well, I loved your humor, and I thought you had to do choreography, and you sang wonderfully.
Sorry?
I said you sang wonderfully, and you had to incorporate choreography as well as your beautiful character. One of the things about your character that I want to point out is that it's really lovely to see a nurturing male character in a family, and I think this is pretty commonplace in a lot of Filipino families, a lot of Filipino American families, that you don't have to be the father to be the nurturing male figure. Would you all say that you have that in your lives?
Maybe. Well, I'm not a father yet, but I do have two nieces, Isabella and Gabriella Ham, and they are gorgeous. And when I say gorgeous, I mean not just on the outside, but like on the inside too. And for me, that's like the closest I've gotten to being a positive male role model for young people. So that's also really, so it's also really nice that I'm able to exercise this kind of thing that I picked
yourself. Yeah.
in the films. So that was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for bringing that character. It brought us a lot of joy, as is Auntie Bess. My gosh, like if we could do an hour character analysis of Auntie Bess, we would. So maybe another time. She was hysterical.
Yeah, she was amazing. She is actually a lot of the cast members know each other from different parts of their lives, and Liz Casasola is actually a good friend of Emmy, and Emmy brought her on to our table read, and once she did it, I was like, okay, well, there she is. So She's amazing.
Well, but it was your writing, you know, like you created these characters. You created this family that felt so natural. And, you know, that brings us to Haven. You portrayed Christine in this such a natural way. You did it so effortlessly that you have to step back and really look to see how much talent you have. It just looked like that was just you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to say after that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I do have to just, it's really the team that was around me, really having Emmy and Paolo and Mallorie, because this was the first film I was playing lead in. And like you said earlier, before our interview, it was intimidating at first, but having the guidance and the nurturing aspects of both Paolo and Emmy on screen, and then Mallorie giving us the freedom to express how we interpreted the characters, was made it a safe space to really find the essence of who we thought these characters were.
That's right. And I think probably you really have to thank you. I mean, kind of be grateful for the fact that you got to embody a character who embraces your own identity, that you could bring that to the table with this character.
Oh, definitely. I feel like there was, at first there was a lot of responsibility I felt, because this was, I think, I mean, Emmy touched on it, like this is the first time Asian, Filipino women, Filipino in general, Filipinos are being showcased with so much depth. And it was really overwhelming, but at the same time, it was such a great opportunity, thanks to Mallorie for writing this, to be able to really go deeper into who she was and how she grieves and how she processes things amidst trying to pursue such a hard career. So it was just such a great blend of finding her space in her culture, in her family, and in her art.
Right. I know. We're going to open it up to audience questions in a little bit, but I do want to say how special this is that all of you have presented this work, because I remember when a Japanese American artist, Diana Huey, got the role of Ariel, that many people loved it. And she obviously auditioned and deserved the role, but there was a lot of backlash where people did not believe that an Asian American should have that role in musical theater. So we can't really take for granted that everyone is accepting or understanding that musical theater is open to all of us. Yeah. Well, let's take a couple of audience questions. There's one for Ode. Let's see. It says, what was the time constraint of the, what was the time constraint of the project budget such that you would have made it longer if you could have?
Yeah, the time constraint was not a product of the budget. It was the commission from the broadcaster of they were seeking these under 3-minute shorts. Certainly that was one of, as we were doing research and talking to the community, to former seafarers, people who worked in the community and helping. There's one woman who ran a restaurant near the ports, and a lot of her customers were the seafarers. So there certainly is like a rich topic, but there is something to be said about short works as well. And I really like that challenge of it. I don't think if I had more time, I probably would have maybe gone down a more conventional documentary route of follow a character, do interviews, but I really like this challenge of writing a poem instead, something I've never embarked on. So it was exciting in that case.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And we have a question for Anna and for Mallorie. What are the challenges in directing a musical, and how are those challenges different from directing a non-musical? Maybe we'll start with Mallorie.
I guess for our film, the biggest challenge was we did have two live recorded songs. So the one where Haven is singing the title, "The Girl Who Left Home," and Emmy, her song at the end is also live. Those are live performances, and that it was challenging in that, you know, Haven was a oneer, so we had to get it right in one take, and I think we only did 7 takes. And then Emmys, we had a little more flexibility in editing, but just being mindful of the prep, like, okay, like you have to know, you got to know it. And then, I mean, I don't know what Haven and Emmy did to make sure that they were hitting the notes all the time. They're just incredible, incredible actors and performers. Um, and then, and then through post, just being mindful of how does a musical affect your post budget? That was a challenge. Just to be a little more producery on this one. Yeah.
Well, your lyrics really support the story. I mean, they were connected with the story, I think, in a strong way that I don't often see. So that was great.
Thank you. Thanks.
And Anna, tell us about working on the challenges of working on a musical versus a non-musical.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, for me, it was time because we had a very short production time because we had deadlines for school, basically. And then it was, you know, that with the availability of the actors, with the availability of the studio, you know, those kinds of things. So the singers, Jennifer and Ariel, they sang one night, and then I think they had a day in between, which I didn't give them the music. And then we started filming, and then they had to lip sync to their own their own soundtracks, and they did an amazing job. Like I didn't have to fix anything. It was really quite phenomenal. So it just goes to show how professional they are.
Wow. Well, that
Yeah.
must have been a great experience to work on.
Yes, absolutely.
It looks like we have a question from Lemia, and Lemia would love, she says, wait, 17 days? Musicals usually make filming take longer. So please tell us, Mallorie, about shooting a feature-length musical in 17 days. What kind of hours were you working? Or maybe, yeah. We'll hear from you, and then maybe your cast will chime in.
Hey, no, we did, you know, it was very hectic. It was, but honestly, I think the prep that we did, you know, Angelo Santos, to bring him back, he was my partner in crime. You know, like if I didn't have him on set, I don't know what would have happened. He extinguished fires I didn't even know about until months later, you know. So the support that I had was huge. And as far as hours go, my AD was a huge stickler on hours. Did I go over 12 hours? No, because he was like, time is up. And I said, okay. So it really, honestly, everyone, you know, the cast and the crew, they were so gung-ho about making this film happen. And, you know, they worked so hard to make the days. And, you know, any filmmaker will say like, oh man, I wish I had this and that. And, you know, we had to make some of those decisions like, okay, let's cut this, let's cut that. And this is what's important. And I think that makes you, you know, more creative as a filmmaker, and it helps you, you know, understand priorities. Like I think like from previous experiences that I've had on set, like my biggest priority is taking care of everyone. Like I would rather have people drive home safe than stay up 2 more hours and, you know, potential car crash or something. So it was very challenging, but the prep work that the team did really helped. And of course, it definitely helped that we were in my hometown. A lot of the locations were my family's or my friends. And so there was a lot of flexibility in those things. And I don't know if I would shoot a musical again in 17 days, but I applaud everyone and thank everyone for working so hard and getting it done.
She slept on the floor in the office.
Yeah. I believe it. I believe it. Maybe you didn't sleep for a couple of days.
No, not really. No.
It was pretty cool to see a Filipino American story on the East Coast. You know, we see, you know, some stuff, you know, you could imagine it in LA or something, but to bring it to the East Coast to your home is probably very, very meaningful to you.
It really is. And, you know, I've always been like, man, I want to see like a Filipino family in New York. There are so many Filipinos over there. How come I don't see that? And you know, growing up in Maryland too, it's like I was born in California and then coming to Maryland at a young age, I was like, what is snow? Like this is terrible, you know, but then learning to love it, and then there are more Filipinos around there. You know, it's just it's great to see that we are everywhere, and I want to see more of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that really struck me about The Girl Who Left Home was that you are very, very committed to representing your pride and your culture, because it took an extra amount of effort and budget to add in like the tinikling at the end and all of the beautiful foods that we see, the ube cookies. And, you know, I think you introduced people to a lot of the culture, the music, you know, the dancing, the costumes, the traditional folk costumes that go with some of the traditional dances. You didn't have to do that. You know, the film stood on its own without that, but it definitely added another layer of richness that you did.
Yeah, I mean, I really have to shout out to our community there because once people found out that we were making the film, like, you know, my aunts and aunties, like, or uncles and aunties, you know, everyone's like, let's get this, let's do that, no, no, no. And my mom is a chef, and so she's like, yeah, I'm gonna have a pig, you're gonna have two pigs, and your cast can eat it. And like, she's also like, did you eat breakfast today? And like, she's making everyone breakfast and everything like that. It was a huge community effort, and a lot of them brought like more to the film than I ever asked for. So.
That's great. Well, we have oh, go ahead, Hayden.
Just to add to what Mallory is saying, I think the reason why we worked so hard is because we were well fed.
Yeah. I was going to ask what your craft services was like. I'm like, Filipino American set.
They got lechon twice.
That was so cool that you brought the lechon on. I'm like, oh, she's like, no holds barred. She's pulling out the lechon.
Like a party every day. I mean, we were singing, we were acting, and we were eating Filipino food. What you know, ask for.
Telling jokes, and you had Tito Tony there.
Yeah, so we
Had that first cut of no one's ever let me cut the lechon before, so that was a big deal. Big deal.
Yeah, we're like, okay,
awesome.
take a photo.
We've got two more quick questions. Anil, thank you for your question, says, I'm of Indian descent, but Mallory's movie really resonated with me. This film had so much emotional heart. Mallory, you mentioned filming in your parents' home and restaurant. How much of the story was autobiographical? Good question.
I think mostly the situational stuff is autobiographical. So my parents' home, the restaurant. My dad is in the Navy. He is still alive. And he likes to say, you wrote this about me. I'm like, no, I didn't. But because you think I did means that you have not seen representation before.
That's right.
So yeah, we had a conversation. It was fun. But another thing was like me leaving home. You know, I did go to LA, to pursue film, and me being the youngest for a long time, I think that my parents were really sad about that, like, why are you leaving? And so, but everything else is very yeah, it's all fiction. It's just, you know,
Good writing.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, this is what I have for free. Like, what can I do with it? And just kind of ran with it.
Thank you. And we have a question from Angelo. It says, Anna, did you write the songs first and the script, or write the script around the songs?
I wrote the songs first and then the script. So it was lyrics first, then music, then script.
Wow, that's an interesting process. Is that how you did yours, Mallory? Did you start with the songs, or you?
I did not. I started with the script first, then the songs.
So now you have works presented in different ways and created in different ways. That's really wonderful. Let's go around, and I'm always over town, but you guys are so fun to be with. I would love to hear from all of you and have you tell us about any projects or anything that you would love to share with our audiences, starting with Joella.
Yeah, no, this was so much fun, and I think this is
Yeah.
so needed. Really want to. I was just thinking about like how much we need joy right now, and there was a question that came through in the chat about like what kind of films or themes you want to see or hope to see, and I think that's something for me, from any stories that are about our communities. I think what I've noticed is often like very bleak stories, or it's very much focused on our trauma or our pain. And I very much would want to see stories about our hopes and our dreams and our joy. There is O2 Seafaring People was just played at Seattle Asian American Film Festival, and I was just loving up on all of the Filipino-made films there, and just noticed that there's a lot of not only the performance aspect of a lot of these films, but also like magic realism and like how that's playing into like how can we imagine the futures that we want. So that's just an aside that's just bubbling up for me.
Oh, that's great.
But what I'm developing right now, my first feature documentary that looks at interracial couples, specifically between Filipinos and white people, and how they are navigating race and romance in their everyday lives, especially during this time, with really thinking about how do we move away from being multicultural to being actively anti-racist. So that's something I'm developing right now.
We will be excited to see that. That sounds really amazing.
Thank you.
And good luck with it. And keep us posted.
Of course.
Anna, what's up with you? What's next?
What's up? Well, I'm actually just starting the process of doing a feature-length version of Looking Back. So it's not going to be exactly the same story, but it's going to be sort of start from there, but then introduce more characters like the father, possibly a sibling. And I also want to bring in this more conversation about immigration into the story, and just like the experience of being a first generation Canadian American, fill in the blank, and how that affects those kinds of conversations that happen. So yeah, so that's what I'm
wonderful. Will you please keep us posted on your project? So
yes, I will, for sure.
Thank you. And Mallorie, what's going on with you next? This was how do you surpass this?
You turn this into a stage show.
I would go to that. Would anyone out there go to that?
Yay!
Oh my God. I would totally do that.
Yeah, so I'm currently writing it as a stage show, and Broadway will be coming back end of the year, maybe next year. So we'll see. Yeah,
that will take some time to do. And imagine Haven, when this
I know
when this is a show, someday a little girl will be out there watching and going, one day I will be Christine Santos. That's my goal in life. And you'll be able to say, I was the original Christine Santos.
Oh my God.
That would be so cool.
It would be an honor. That would be so awesome.
We are all coming. We're going to bring the DisOrient audience and come to your opening of that. So
we'll see.
Yeah.
It's got a long way to go. We'll see.
Yeah, there's some work to be done, but you can do it. So we see what your potential. Emmy, what's up with you? You've been in a lot of things, like people probably don't know that they've seen you. They're like, gosh, it looks so familiar. But you've been in lots of things, TV, film, Broadway. So what's next?
I just finished filming an episode of a new Netflix series. It's called Archive 81. It's like a paranormal thriller. It's really good. I was only in one episode, but I had to read the previous episodes to understand what was happening. And I'm excited to see how that ends up. And I'm in an independent film that's doing the whole film festival circuit called The Catch, and a film that is currently on Amazon called First One In. It's a comedy about tennis, a tennis team of women. And I love that one because the cast is very diverse. We're on my team. We're all different ages. We have a woman who is trans, and just a very colorful group of people. It's fun.
Oh my God. Do you play tennis too?
No, I'm horrible at it, but my character is also the worst player. So it was
Okay, so it works.
it was perfect. It was perfect. She's neurotic. It was perfectly cast.
Well, thank you for giving us some other pieces that we could see you in, because I think people are going to want to follow you from here. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Paolo, you've done, you know, polar opposite characters. What's next for you?
Well, what's next for me right now is that I am in the beginning stages of doing a collaboration with Asian Americans advancing justice. And it is to help stop AAPI hate and stop Asian hate.
Thank you.
And the timing of it came along a couple of weeks ago. I was finally able to speak to them last week before the tragic events of this week. And what I really wanted to do is kind of not reward, but help them in their bystander training in some way, maybe teach a module or something like that, if they'll let me do that, so that it will attract more people to maybe look into bystander training, so people can actively be out there stopping hate on the ground in their communities, wherever they are. So
Brilliant.
Please AJC, and also stop Asian AAPI hate on Instagram. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for doing that important work. We share those same organizations listed in our statement that we have posted on social media and on our website. So if anyone wants to find out more, you can find links on our website to those. Thank you, Paolo, for doing that important work. And Haven, you can do anything, but what's next?
Right now, I was in a short film that should be releasing sometime this year. It's called Omolara, and it's a really interesting film. So I haven't seen it yet, so we'll see. But no, the story touches on a lot of interesting things. So I can't wait for that to be released. But I've also just been working more so on music. I've been working with a couple of producers. It's a little bit of a sensitive space for me because it's like my what I used to do. So I've just been writing a lot of like personal things and just dabbing on what kind of direction and sound, but hopefully releasing a single later on this year. That's the goal.
Your own music, that's wonderful. We will look for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. This has been an amazing panel, and what a way to open DisOrient. I think, Joella, your film, Ode to a Seafaring People, just really rooted us into and reminded us about the contributions of Filipinos across the world internationally, and gave us a lot to think about and a lot to be really proud of. Hard work, you know, the responsibility to family and providing, and the struggle and the resilience of Filipinos around the world. So thank you. And Anna, your film Looking Back, I think provides so much healing for all of us. You know, mental health is something we, you know, all have in all of our families. So for us to start to be able to talk about it and have conversations is truly important. And thank you for opening the door to some of those conversations. And finally, the cast and director of The Girl Who Left Home. Your film just provides such warmth and such brilliance about the Filipino American family and culture, and Asian American families and cultures, and the work that you can produce. And we're excited to see more. Thank you so much. So with that, you know, thank you. We're probably a little over time. So I would be fired off of your sets because, you know, I could not stay on schedule, but it was just so tempting to hear more and more from you. I wanted acknowledge that with your film, The Girl Who Left Home, you had it centered around a restaurant. And oftentimes, historically, for Asian American groups and immigrants, it was really not a choice to have this wonderful, warm restaurant. It was survival. It was, we can't get work, so we have to do this. This is how we're going to provide for our families. So I think it's important to remember that yes, there are these beautiful restaurants now that American cities enjoy, that are Filipino American, Chinese American, Japanese American, but they all started because there were no choices and there were no opportunities. So it's beautiful that you've done that here with your film. If that resonates with people, then please check out, we have another film called Takeout Girl in the program, so check that out. And just the fact that you give permission for Asian American kids to pursue musical theater is really, really inspiring and empowering. So thank you to all of you for making your films. You can also check out Curtain Up if that's something that you've got kids who want to perform. Check that out and see what you think. Thank you, Joella Cabalu. Thank you, Anaka. And thank you, Mallorie Ortega, Emmy Coligado, Paolo Montalban, and Haven Everly. We are so, so honored to showcase your work, and we still have 9 more days of people to enjoy your film. So thank you. Bravo, bravo.